snow. It's not like your Canadian snow.
Only now.
We are live. Kelly, you're just describing the snow that you're in.
Yeah, I live in Birmingham, so actually where I live, more inner city, it's not so bad, but it's quite heavy now. But I was just saying, it's not English snow, comes down, lays for about 2 hours and goes into slush. It's not like proper snow. I want to wake up and see 6 foot of it. If it's going to snow properly. Yeah.
Kelly, I'm just tagging you in the post so it can go across your Facebook page too. But I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. I want to get back into it. We'll get into our story and how we've met or anything, but just kind of briefly, how have you been over the last few months?
Well, like everyone else, it's been a struggle, and there's some good points and some bad points. Some good points, you learn to appreciate what you got. But I think the biggest thing for me is just missing people, missing contact with people. I'm tactile, so I like to hug my friends and the people around me, and not being able to do that is really extremely hard. And all my friends are very similar. We're a very huggy group of friends. So, oh God, you go to hug and then you have to withdraw, and so the good thing is I live alone, so everybody wants me to be in their bubble, so that's a good thing. So it's but it's choosing who you can and who you can't see. But otherwise it's been okay. I think you adjust. It's not nice, but you learn. So hopefully it's not forever.
Kelly, welcome to the What's On at Elephant Castle Facebook page. Melissa, welcome to you. Hi, everybody. Joining us for our last Facebook Live of 2020, which has been a crazy year for everybody, is Kelly Sotherton, who is an Olympic athlete, a couple of 3 bronze medals, I believe, Commonwealth gold medalist, and an advocate for athletes in today's world of sport. I'm just so grateful that you're here and that we can talk, but I want to kind of go back to how we met. And my first memories of you really are, geez, it must be like 30 years ago. And I was living on the Isle of Wight. I was playing ice hockey down there. I was going to university in Winchester. So every day I'd have to get the ferry across. And I knew you from the ice rink there, but you were also this young lady who was on the ferry almost all the time that I was going across to Winchester. And I just saw this woman who was dedicated at this young age to go across to the mainland to Portsmouth to train in athletics. That was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're giving away our age. People are going to think, what, 30 years? You can't be that old. Yeah, but you're older than me. Yeah. I mean, where I lived on the Isle of Wight, there wasn't an athletics track at the time. So I had to go and catch a ferry after school to go train. So I did that from the age of 13, 14. And then because that came normal, it was just normality. That's what I had to do. So I suppose the Olympic dream was there from such a young age, but I didn't know probably why it was there, or the drive. It just happened. But the thing is, when you live in such a small place, and you can probably relate to this, Nick, it's like I felt penned in, so I needed to go out and explore. And because my family are a London family, an East London family, I went onto the mainland all the time. So I knew what else was out there. So it was like I needed to escape because I just felt so. So it was.
I think I escaped. I think I escaped a little bit before you, because the next time I saw you was in 2004, and you were in the Athens Olympics, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's Kelly!" How did you get there from the time on the boat traveling to becoming an Olympic medalist? I know it's a long journey, but can you kind of briefly describe it to us?
Yeah, so I became professional really late. I was 26, and normally professional athletes, 18, 19, 20, 21. I was really late, but I went to university in West London, where I used to see you work at Sky Sports for ice hockey. So you were literally still near me. So it's like we've kind of I've been following you around, not quite, but yeah. Just went to university. It didn't really work out in terms of my career there in athletics, but then I found a coach, moved to Birmingham in 1998, and then I got a job at HSBC Bank. I worked there for 4 years, and I just started to get better at, the older I got, the better I got at becoming professional. So I started to realise what I needed to do. So every year there was changes that made, and then one year it just happened, the door opened and I took that opportunity, and that was in 2003, left my job. 9 months later I got an Olympic medal, and then my athletic history just was written from there. I think it just was taking opportunities, and not let them pass, and that's what I did. I ran with it. Well, I sprinted with it. So yeah, it was just a series of moves. I just grew as I got older. I grew and I learned. So I suppose, yeah.
Mel, over to you.
I don't know. I don't know what I want to. I you know what I want to ask. You mentioned in your kind of intro that kind of drive was just in you.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you were ready for these opportunities that presented themselves to you. I'm just curious more about that drive, because not all of us can be Olympic, bronze medalists. So I'm just wondering what that drive was like, what your conversation was like to yourself, what kept you going, what let you quit HSBC to get, what was that fire inside of you that kept you going?
I think the same fire that took me on a boat when I was 13 to go training. So I think people are more naturally have that instinctive nature to go and search for what's, they have an ambition and they want to succeed. And so I think naturally I had that in abundance. And so things like that, making changes or taking opportunities and risks, came natural to me. I'm an only child as well, so I've always been very much by my own, and not that my mum taught me the hard way, but like I was very taught to go out and do your things, go out and do things that they won't happen. So not that I was always searching, but I just knew if I wanted something, I had to either work for it really hard or I had to find a way to get there. And I suppose my path isn't linear. It is very much forward, back, sideways, very much. And I think probably the overriding thing was if something didn't go my way or there was a door shut, I would just try and find another way. But I think I didn't fret about it. I was just instinctively looking for somewhere else. So when my career didn't go anywhere in 1998, because I wanted to go to the Commonwealth Games in Malaysia, I didn't go, and I thought, well, the next one was in Manchester. So I was like, well, how can I get there? And I just started to take small steps. So set myself small goals to start to achieve that process. And it happened. And obviously when the goals got bigger, as I got more successful, I still maintained the small steps of goal setting. And I have everyone has a fridge, but I always list things that I want to achieve, so I remember it and see it every day. So it's like a vision board. If you see it, they say if you see it, you can achieve it. I mean, I don't totally believe in that, but if you keep reminding yourself of what you want to do and where you want to go, I think you'll subconsciously go towards that. So, but if you don't see it, how can you ever dream of going that way? So for instance, I wanted to win a gold medal. I didn't. I won 3 bronzes, but 3 bronzes is still pretty good. So I can't complain. I'd love to have won a gold, but it's like shooting for the stars and only getting the moon. Mm-hmm. So the moon or the stars, that's that saying. So I suppose it's just very much nature that took me where I was, and my mother probably inadvertently helped me steer that way. So yeah.
As a coach that you are now, I'm just interested to know that, like I through knowing your story, especially with the back injury and what happened in Beijing, there was a lot of setbacks that you had, and I know through my journey, setbacks certainly were something that through now where I am now as like a nearly 50-year-old man, those setbacks were huge assets to the man that I've become now. And at the time, they're just like, oh my God, the world is falling apart. And I'm interested that both you and Melissa have talked about this little fire inside of us. I'm interested to know how the setbacks, how you got over the smaller setbacks that you thought were just, the world is falling apart, with that kind of inner fire in you. And I'm interested to know, kind of as an athlete, but also as a coach now, how do you help people, and how did you help yourself through these kind of vulnerable hurdles, literal hurdles too, that you got over?
I think one of the first things is, when you're an athlete and there's a setback, is allowing yourself to be upset about it. So for instance, if I did have an injury or a result didn't go my way, I allowed myself to grieve, if you must say so. I allow myself to be upset, because I think you deserve to be upset for like a day or two. And then once I've upset, I'm like, well, okay, what's the plan? And then so I grieved, and then how do I get out of this? How do I make it better? So then I'm always looking for a way out, to make it either not happen again, or, you know, or for a solution to the problem. But I think the important thing is, and I tell everybody, is to allow yourself time to get over what's just happened, because I don't think we do give us enough time in life to get over something. So like, my dad died in July and we were estranged. And the thing is that I didn't know how to understand that. And I didn't know how to grieve, but I think actually that takes time, and sometimes it's not immediate, and just allow nature to take it out as it goes, just allow it to happen. And a lot of people told me that. So, and it's very much the same as in anything, just allowing yourself time to get over something. As a coach, I'm probably the opposite. Get over it, come on. But I'm probably more cautious. So I give people, I said, you know, something happens, I probably give them the benefit of my wisdom and advice, and then allow them to make their own decisions. I've made mistakes as a coach. So I've done a lot of telling before the last 2 years. I've told a lot of people what they should do, and actually that's wrong. You shouldn't tell anybody what to do. You should either just give suggestions. Okay, this is what I did, it may help you, here's some suggestions. So you allow them to make their own decision, or guide them. But yeah, so nowadays I just say, this would be really good, why don't you think of this? So I give seeds to people, allow them, and if certain seeds set and sprout, then, you know, hooray. But like, yeah, I've learned not to tell people anything. So it's like telling a child, don't walk on that, don't do this. Well, the first thing a child will do is going to do the opposite and go and do it. So like, I've just learned from that in coaching, just or speaking to me, communicating to people. Just don't tell people, just give them some suggestions and allow them to work it out for themselves.
I think you said non-linear, and when you're talking about your path to, you know, your kind of career or experience. And then I think when you're talking about grief, it's kind of the same. Grief is also non-linear, but especially when you're an athlete or practicing sport, it's hard to be non-linear when it requires so much discipline and strategy and like continuity almost. So I did Taekwondo like many years ago, and it was part of my life. And at the same time of doing it, I was experiencing so much grief outside in my personal life. So being in Taekwondo and having that discipline helped me, but at the same time, it didn't allow me to fully embrace my grief. So I don't know. That's all I want to say about that. But
it's the same, because I didn't know how. I thought I could just get over it, because mentally I'm very strong, and so well, I appear to be, but I didn't know really. That's my first parent, the only parent so far that's passed. So I didn't know how to deal with that. But you're right. I think when you already feel that you should be something, and then something else happens, you don't know, and it affects you in a different way. You don't know how to deal with it, and I didn't. So I actually did go to therapy. So and I found that really, it was like a decompression chamber. I could just cry and whatever. Whereas I was used to doing that in my professional career, but I couldn't do that in my personal career. It was really strange. You think some of the tools that you have learned and skills I have learned, I just wasn't bringing over to my personal life. So so that was quite strange and quite hard, because I thought I could deal with anything. Like basically I'm impenetrable. So but I realized I'm not. So I'm not titanium, unfortunately. So just like everybody else. But I think because of the year that's been, don't think that helped either. I think any other normal year it would have been different. Maybe I'd have felt different, maybe not. But yeah, one thing I was going to say is, like, when I was an athlete, and I suppose this can relate to people who go to work, if I had personal problems of any sort that weren't anything to do with my career, I learned to leave them at the doors. I went into the track, so I'd have to go through a gate to get to the athletics track. And I just learned to dump it there, dump the baggage there, walk in, train. When I finished training, however long that was, I'd come back and pick it up again. So I didn't allow that to affect my work, my athletics. Nobody goes through life whereas everything's perfect in terms of your personal life. It can affect your career, and I didn't need it to affect my career. I didn't have brain space for that. So yeah, I learned to then dump baggage, go in, do what I did, and pick it up again. But that was the nature of my event. If I did heptathlon, it was 7 events. You have to learn to park, move on, then look back at, and then reassess and assess it afterwards. So that was part of my nature, I suppose. But then I learned, I deal with that in everyday life now. I'm learning to do that in my personal life as well. But yeah, that was one thing, leave it at the door and then collect it on the way out.
You talked about you know, that you said mental toughness, and then you say that you kind of, it's almost like you portray this mental toughness, right? Yeah. But is it real? And this is something that I really want to kind of delve in with you is that when I was an athlete, you know, a little bit before you, I was taught certain things about toughness. I was taught that, you know, never cry, never let anybody show that you're in pain, you never show any weakness, win at all cost, you know, beat somebody up on the other team to crush their spirits, like all these kind of really heavy masculine toughness stuff. And what I know now is that a lot of that was very detrimental to me, especially when I needed to ask for help. You know, for years, I was going down this kind of spiral of depression and substance use and just unmanageability of my life. And I needed to ask for help. And I didn't have that tool because I was always taught to, you know, to toughen up. I'm wondering about what now, like say, you know, you look at that 13-year-old Kelly on the boat and the idea of that tough to what you know now, you know, what were the messages that you kind of say to that young person, and even the young Nick, you know, of, you know, win at all cost type stuff, to actually, you know, challenging yourself to become the best version of you, and kind of a more tender approach to it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is now, I think in a way, we were unfortunate but fortunate to grow up in sport in the years that we did, because it was tougher than it is now mentally. However, I think if I hadn't have been brought up that way, I don't think necessarily I would have been the athlete I was. So I just think, okay, what was good and what was good? And so if I was going to go back to a 13-year-old Kelly, and I see them all the time at the track, I would just say, you know, like, if you have an ambition and dream, just keep going for it. Just, if that's your dream and you're burning ambition, just go for it and ensure you, I mean, I'm not sure a 13-year-old would truly understand this, but it's probably ensuring their support around them was good. You only really need one person to support you, I think, to maybe level out, to keep you level and grounded. And if that's a parent or a sibling or a friend, but I'd always advise someone to have someone who they could speak to. I mean, I imagine both of us never really had that person to speak to make sure that things that we were doing were right or being treated in a way. I was very fortunate that I didn't get treated in a bad way up until I was a professional athlete. But then I was an adult and I just learned to deal with it. And actually, I was lucky. I had great coaches, I had great training partners, and all through university that I was great. I think I was very fortunate. And like in athletics, I think it's very different to probably a team sport where you were in, where, I mean, I love ice hockey, so I watched you play, so I know what would have been said and how it would have been, and how you had to be a tough guy. Like, that wasn't really in athletics, you had to be that tough. But I imagine in a team sport where it's very masculine, that you'd had to be like that. But I think it's just, having someone to speak to and not be afraid of speaking how you feel. I think everybody needs a buddy, whoever that is, whoever you feel comfortable about, just to say how you feel. I wish I had, so then you can just express your emotions. And even if it's just to one person and you still act tough, at least you've got an outlet I think, to do that. Like, I look like I suck lemons half the time. I have a moody face. I look aggressive. I think lots of people are scared of approaching me, but once they know me, I'm not like that at all. I really am not. I could be quite hard and harsh, and my tone could be quite cutting, but it comes from a good place. So I hope. So yeah, it would just be find somebody just to sound off to, I think, or parents or friends, to allow that person to breathe, I suppose, space.
Yeah, I just took a breath when you said breathe. I can real thing to feel like very contained and claustrophobic, and also I would say, Nick and I talk about this a lot, but like the amount of attachment you have to your identity within the profession you are in. And so when that changes, when you're no longer an athlete or a whatever, it's not only that you're losing or that you have to grieve that, you also have to grieve or allow space to grieve the identity that's lost because it's been so intricately attached to what you're a hockey player, you're an athlete, you run track. It doesn't matter. Your identity becomes it. So I feel like, and some of the work Nick and I've done, like that's where the grief, for, because that feels like the word we're going to use, that feels right and true, really comes. It's not just you're no longer this, you no longer play this sport or do this thing. You are now not sure who you are as a person. Even for both of you, I'm sure that's not, I can't be sure about it, but I wonder if that was part of your coaching, how you were coached. I'm pretty sure probably not. And also for you, Kelly, like, have you incorporated that into how you coach nowadays, that kind of like piece of identity at all?
Yeah, so I coach team sport, really. I don't really coach in athletics anymore, even though my job is, I'm a team leader of the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham 22 for athletics, but I don't coach in athletics anymore, such mainly in team sport, so rugby specifically. So, you know, very much like Nick would have said, very macho, you know, men. So when I coach them, one thing I make sure I do is communicate to them on a level. No one's above anybody else, and try to communicate in their style. So you have to learn how that person communicates with you. And I do quite a bit of one-on-one stuff, and actually find that much better. You get to learn the persons and their personality. I just allow them to be themselves, and not, so when they come to train, they're not anyone different, though. However, some people do want to come to their sport and be different to when they're home. And I get that too. So some people want to be tough and macho and very professional, but when they go home, they just want to be the opposite. So I kind of say try to marry them both, so it's not too extreme. So some of the rugby players, for instance, I coach, I'm very good friends with them. So like I talk to them the same, whether it was go into a cafe or a pub or their own home, to the track. So I try and maintain the same level of personality, communication all the time. So there's no different, but it is hard. Like for instance, I retired, it'll be 9 years, oh God, 2012. So 2012, and I still trying to find out who I really am. Like I've been an athlete for 30 odd years. I still call my coach, and he's not my coach. So, but he's my coach, Aston. So, and I just think but that is me. But then why should I find another identity? Like I am Kelly, the athlete, and I was for most of my life. And people do not, in sport, people don't want to be tagged as the athlete still, but actually we are. And that's what drove us to where we are and got us to where we are today. So actually, what I probably would have said 5 years ago, I'm not the athlete anymore. I am at heart. That's me. So, you know, my head says no, I'm not. I'm this, but really down. I'm in my head. I'm still 25, 26, the professional athlete. Obviously, I'm not. So I still think I can do things. I really can't. But that's me, and that's my personality and nature. And why would I want to discard that? But I want to be obviously known for other things. And I'm sure that those athletes I work with, or the people I work with, can manage both of them. But also, you don't need to be one or the other. You can still be both at all times. It's fine.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you said that, because it's reinforcing something that I'm feeling now. At, like I say, I'll be 50 in February. And when I stopped playing hockey, I think I was like 28, and I started working full time at Sky. And that's when I felt like a fraud. Like I was like, how did I go from being a hockey player from the middle of Canada to being on TV? And this was then all enveloped in me, and was just fear. And from the time that, say from about 30 years old, when Sky stopped covering the hockey, I then had no identity at all, because I wasn't an athlete. I wasn't a TV person. I was just on this kind of this journey to weirdness. And but recently, do you know what I figured out? And you've just kind of, as you were talking, Kelly, it just popped out. Athletes play. Like that's what we do, right? We play. And I'm starting, there's a couple of street hockey sticks behind me, and I've got a couple of street hockey goals. And I started to just play again, you know, just out on the street in a tennis court. And it's made me feel alive, like in a way that, like even playing, like getting paid to play, like when we were kids on the ponds in Canada, just playing, you know, street hockey. And it's just really kind of like, I can always be that guy, just because I'm not, you know, on a rink in front of people playing in front of people. I can still play and have fun. And you really kind of, just as you spoke like that, it really kind of reinforced to me that it doesn't matter how old we are, how bad our hips are, because mine are bad. And I ache, but I have so much fun when I do it. Okay, so I want to ask you something that, like you said too, that you're quite outspoken, you know, and you kind of put on this thing. And I remember after, I think it was 2008 Beijing, there was a lot of drug problems. You kind of got ripped. Well, you got ripped off, right? Because you couldn't be on the podium to get your bronze medal. It later came to you. And that seemed to me, and I again, from afar, it ignited something in you about fairness, you know? Can you kind of explain what that did to you?
Yeah, so in 2008, I did 2 events, and I came 5th twice, then upgraded to 4th, and then 10 years later, upgraded to 2 bronzes. Yeah, so really 10 years of my life was stolen, being celebrated as one of the most successful track and field athletes our country's seen, and in my event. So it was, yeah, I've honestly, from 2008 to 2018, I felt I was quite bitter about my sport, because I felt I hadn't achieved enough, and I felt then I weren't good enough. But obviously then I was vindicated when I got my medal, so I actually felt a sense of relief that I was good enough. But in those 10 years, literally, I made so for instance, after 2008, I made decisions on my career that unfortunately ended my career, because I thought I wasn't good enough. So I had to train harder, and I had to do things different. And all I had to do was keep doing what I was doing. And I would have had probably a really nice run to the Home Olympics in 2012. And after 2008, I never did another heptathlon again. So because I just trained too hard, because I thought I wasn't good enough. I wanted to step it to the next level, and what I needed to do was just maintain what I was doing, because, you know, I was good enough. I would have still got beaten by Jessica Ennis, but I would have given her a good run for her money. So, but it would have been an enjoyment just to have had someone else, you know, steering the ship after me, and she was fantastic and amazing. I'd love to have been part of that journey, but I wasn't. So yeah, there's a lot of bitterness, and a lot of people said, oh, you would have probably lost out financially, probably good £500,000. But I can't focus on that. Otherwise I'll be bitter to the day I die. And that's one thing I can't do, because I feel very fortunate to have had the career I've had. It came late, but I maximised the 6 years that I had as a professional athlete at the top. So I have to feel grateful and live a life that many people wish they had. And it's got me to where I am today. So I think every time something, maybe when I look back at the girls and the people that cheated me, at the time I was very angry, but now I think a Russian athlete right now, how would they, was it their choice? Everyone has a choice, but really, was it their choice? Were they forced? Were they coerced? Were they told, if you don't take this, we won't support you and your family. You know, they would have had to make tough decisions. So I start thinking about it in a different, more holistically, I think, and you know, how they would have had to deal with that situation, and did they really want to cheat? And no one grows up or is with that, I'm going to cheat to win a medal. You don't. So someone else has put that idea in someone's head. So I feel maybe it really isn't their fault. Now, if they've cheated once and got caught and learned their lesson, I don't necessarily believe when you get caught, by the way, in drug testing, it's not the first time they've been taking drugs, it's the first time they've got caught. So that's the difference. It means they've probably been taking it for ages, it's just the first time they got caught. It's no different than a thief. They've probably been stealing for years and it's the first time they got caught. So like, yeah, penance. And do I believe in second chances? No, not in sport. I think you have to pay a price, unfortunately. But then if you don't learn it after that, then like one of the other girls, it was a second time. Well, you should definitely not be involved in sport. So then you have never learned your lesson. So you are a proper cheat. But I do start thinking about some of the people that have lost out their careers because of doping, and actually think, was it their fault? And I actually don't believe it really is. I mean, even though they have a choice. So I'm starting to be a little bit softer on how I feel when you look back, because people in certain countries don't have that choice. That it's a force, or it's a choice between putting food in their family's mouth or starving. So I'm looking at it the older I get, probably getting softer. But just looking at it in a different way, in a different perspective.
It seems like, I'm sorry, my dog might start barking, so I'm going to mute it. It seems like the softer that you're talking to is really, it seems like this compassion, because when you're able to know that you're paying, or you've had something stolen from you, or weren't able to fully be in it, and you're able to reflect on maybe the realities of the choices for the other person were not so easy or compartmentalized or black and white. It seems like, at least from my perspective, and like an inviting in of compassion, or a bigger picture of the scenario of the different layers that are involved, especially in something like competition, like Olympics, like sport, right? There's all these different parts of the puzzle, or the pieces of a machine that are playing, and to really pull out and see all of it. I don't know if I could do that, because I don't move on to that
I think it's just if I don't want to be a bitter person, I'm not going to forgive or forget these people. I never will, because they've affected my life. However, I just look at it from a different perspective, because it isn't that isn't black and white. And in certain countries, their culture is to forgive. And if you're religious and you're a Christian, you forgive. I'm not that. I'm not going to forgive or forget, but I'll just look at it in a different way. So if somebody asks my perspective now, like you are, I just think, well, it's totally different to what it was when I was 33, 32 than it is when I'm 44. So it's okay, benefit of hindsight. If it happened to me again now, I'd still be angry. But 10 years later, I probably think, okay, I'll have a better understanding. But maybe it's because I've got what I deserved, and so I feel a little bit better about it. However, I would still be living in a better house if I had £500,000. I just or handbags, better holidays. But you don't do sport for finance. Never did sport for financial reasons. So I did it because I wanted to be great, win medals. And if that came, that happened. So, but yeah, I think you just learn to look at things slightly different when you're older. I think, but a different perspective, 100%.
Yeah.
Nick, I want to know. Sorry, Mel.
No, go on.
There are people watching here that, and even me, I'm thinking. Well, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about heptathletes and decathletes. And also pole vaulters, because there's always this debate about who were the best athletes at the Olympics, in terms of the overall stature of the athlete, their ability, their mental toughness, all of these kind of factors going into it. And I know people were talking about pole vaulters, they were talking about decathletes and heptathletes, and then there was another sport, maybe wrestlers, maybe it was like wrestlers. and they were saying that they were kind of encompassed the overall athlete, you know, in terms of like your perfect ideal of an athlete. Now a heptathlete, there's seven disciplines, right? I'm going to try to, you're going to have to help me. But the throwing ones are you shot put and you javelin, right?
Yeah.
And then the running ones, do you do the 400?
No.
800?
Yeah.
800. And then what are the other ones?
You want to be guessing? 200 meters.
No. Yeah.
And 100-meter hurdles.
100-meter hurdles. And then what are the, and then how many is that? That's 5. What are the other 2?
Long jump and high jump.
Long jump and high jump. Okay. Did you ever try pole vaulting, by the way?
I did. I used to date a pole vaulter, so he used to teach me how to pole vault. No, unless you've really learned that skill when you're younger. It's like gymnastics. It's very, very gymnastics. It's really hard. It's very technical. And with pole vault, you can never do it half-assed, if I can say that. Literally, you have to be full on every time. It can't be, I can run 50%, plant the pole, jump. It has to be 100% every time. You just can't be lazy with it. So answering your question, decathlon is the ultimate event. Even heptathlon isn't decathlon because it encompasses endurance, all the jumps, all the throws, all the speed, all the endurance. So it's, you know, in true reflective Olympic sport, decathlete, overall, every Olympic sport has to be decathlon. Absolutely. Yeah. I would hate to do a decathlon.
What was your favorite? What's your favorite event in the heptathlete?
The end. It's weird because the whole event basically, because you know you start at like 7 o'clock in the morning by warming up and you finish the next day at about 10:30, 11, and it's like the whole journey. It's like if anybody's run a marathon, I've done one, it's just the journey. But the first event was one of my favorites, hurdles, but because it's the first event and you need to get through that unscathed, you're nervous, so you don't enjoy it as much as you should probably. So I think for me it was the high jump and shot. It's because you're slightly more relaxed, and it was you had recovery, but I like them all. I love the 800, even the 800 meters at the end hurt a lot, but I was good at it. It was one of my best events, and this is a sick thing about me, because not many of the heptathletes could run well. They would be being sick or they would be scared and it'd be written all over their face, and they knew that I would overtake them, I would beat them, and they would look at me and go, "Are you going to run fast, Cal?" I went, "Yeah." So I'd strike more fear into them and I would be laughing inside. I mean, I was scared, but I would be laughing because I always laugh. I laugh in the face of adversity. It's my saying that I got from Denise Lewis, so I do. So when I'm nervous, I just laugh, but they didn't know that. And so that probably scared them even more. But, you know, so crossing that line and then crossing the line and then looking behind you to see how far back everyone is, that's the best feeling. Like they're rubbish and you're good. And when you cross the line first, roughly in that event, you feel good because you won an event. So, yeah, I kind of like watching people suffer in events that they don't, which everyone would have done to me in the javelin because I was awful. Yeah. Right. But I got my revenge in the 800. So yeah.
I'm wondering about when, like a moment, I was just imagining you like maybe as you talked about the high jump and shot put and stuff, like where you can kind of get a bit of rest, sitting in a stadium like at the Commonwealth Games or in Beijing or in Athens, and actually would you get time to sit back before it was your turn and actually look around and soak up the energy? Were there any amazing moments of that or memories?
Yeah, I have actually a really good one. So in Athens in 2004, so first Olympic Games, the year leading into that, I had a psychologist and Mark, and we practiced what might happen in the Olympic Stadium. So we'd always practice, you're in the high jump, you know, you're having to wait your turn, and it usually takes like 20 minutes every jump after everyone's jump. And you can be there for a few hours. And he goes, imagine a Mexican wave. So you're sitting there and so you're taking it all in, because you have to learn to unfocus really quickly. So I'll be sitting there and, you know, there's only about 35, 40,000 in the morning session at the Olympics. And they were doing a Mexican wave, and I was in my head. And then I got there and they actually started to do the Mexican wave. Like every 10 minutes there was a Mexican wave. And I'm like, I've done this before because I'd practiced that scenario. So when I got to the high jump and the height started to get into heights where like, I need to clear this, I learned, I was just so enjoying watching what I'd already practiced for that previous year, that the visualization that I'd done. I was like, I've been here so many times before. So I added 8 centimeters to my high jump. So that's massive at that level, from jumping like 178 to 185, so 7 centimeters. So it was massive. But I'd already practiced that scenario because I'd been there so many times, and I was like, oh, okay, I've been here. So like, it wasn't, whoa, it was like, wow, like, yeah, I've practiced this. So like, when I go on, when I talk about visualization or putting things in that, like goals, and they're the sort of things I would practice, like practice what you want to achieve. And it can happen. So that's one of my great stories, and that's what I think helped me get my massive personal best, which then helped me get my medal, because that kind of catapulted me into the level of stratospheric, one of the best in the world, and by that performance. But yeah, and the other one was Athens. I was running in the 200 meters. I'd lane 8, which is the outside lane, and the kit sometimes isn't always to your liking. The shorts were quite small. And I remember when I was coming off the bend, and I should not be thinking this, I was thinking, oh my God, my running knickers are up my arse. And everyone behind me can see, as in the people in the stand. Instead of like, yes, keep running, running, running. I'm like, oh my God, I can't put my hand. So, and I've watched that race, and I can, because I know what I was thinking, I can see it. I think I ran a PB, a personal best. I equaled it. I think, and if I'd have focused on the race, I probably would have ran quicker. But I was just bothered about showing my ass to the couple of thousand people sitting behind me on the bend. I don't know. So it's like, those sort of the things that you think about. It's not always straightforward. And also, when I run an 800 meters, I don't hear anything. I actually go completely deaf. So I can't hear a crowd. I can't hear people, but I can hear people breathing behind me or next to me. But it's like you're in a bubble. That's the totally weird experience. It's like you're so focused, but you can hear immediate things, the people around you, but you can't hear 90,000 people. I didn't hear that in Beijing at all. Didn't hear any noise at all. Or in any 800, I just didn't hear anything. And I just think, well, if I could have heard the crowd, maybe I'd have run quicker. So I keep saying these things to myself. I'm terrible. God, if I could have heard the crowd, maybe I could have run a second. Yeah. So yeah, those sort of things. But I'm sure that's not unique. I'm sure plenty of other athletes have that experience. You just don't hear about it.
I would love to hear about that. The inner dialogue when you're in the middle of a race and you're thinking, like, that's, I mean, that brings this like humanity and just to something that we all like are in, like very invested in, whether you're the athlete or watching it. It's I don't know, I think it's kind of brilliant.
If you had like, you know, the speech bubbles out of athletes' heads, and you could actually see what they were thinking, none of that would be athletic sport. It would all be about other things. Like, you can't control what comes in your head. Even though whatever people say, you know, I could be preparing to long jump, and I'll be like, oh, did I leave my straightening irons on? Like, everyone thinks that. Every person thought that who uses straightening irons. Oh, is my cat okay? Oh, and you just, everyday thoughts just come in. And you can't control, as much as you can try and control, you can't control them. But they're the things that happen. And you're at the Olympics.
That'd be a good coffee table book. All thoughts that came into athletes' heads at certain points in their career, right? You know, what was it going to eat after? Yeah.
That's a really good idea. In lots of different sports, what were people thinking at that precise moment? Probably nothing to do with sport.
Yeah. Am I going to have cheese on my burger when I get out of this?
Honestly, no, but I would have thought that in 2004, it's 24-hour McDonald's at the Olympics. And I was like, yes, I'm having a McDonald's, literally. And like, those thought processes. I would have thought of that 100 times. Oh, I've got 10 free apple pies coming my way. You know?
I love apple pies.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. You know, we're kind of coming to the end of our time, Kelly, and I'm wondering, you know, 2020 has been a year that everybody has just had to change and adapt, and it's been a lot of uncertainty and challenging times. It's not necessarily one that I would say we've got to put behind us and just move forward, but it's, I mean, we literally are going to flip the calendars over into 21. And I'm wondering how, you know, what you're looking forward to in 2021. What are going to be some of your goals and things that you're kind of aspiring to achieve, and how are you going to leave 2020?
Well, I hope the clock doesn't get to 23:59 and stay there. That's a nightmare, isn't it? So we're stuck in 2020 forever. Yeah. I think, slightly pessimistic. I can't see it right now changing a lot. However, I think soon as some kind of normality comes, so people being able to have the vaccine and life can start resuming like we know it. So I just don't think it will go back to completely how we know it. And that's okay with me. I'm just looking forward to being able to leave my house and not worry about, I don't know, just, I want to hug my friends. So, you know, I've got a job where I'm in charge of the Commonwealth Games in 22, and you know, we have an Olympics next year, which I may be part of, and I think, oh, I need that to go ahead. So part of me is I'm worrying about what I need to achieve, and hopefully everything will be normalised in 22, but I know that won't happen. You know, I just want to, you know, I got through this year. Whoever's made it to the 1st of January 21 has made it. So, okay, what have you learned? What have I learned? I can do this. And I suppose just taking each day as it comes, because sometimes I don't take each day as it comes. And I just think, you know, if you can get through this year, and there's been a lot of stuff that's happened to me this year, then you can get through anything. And I suppose it's accepting there will be some tough times, and that's okay. And I think it's been okay allowing there to be tough times, because not everything's rosy. But I really want to go on holiday at the end of January, and I'm waiting for announcements. So I think one thing I'd like to have to go on holiday and have some freedom, and be with, and just being able to see my family as a whole group, not just as a 1 or as a 6. I have a big family. There's like 50 people in my family. So, and hug my friends. It's just the simple things in life. And me and Melissa were talking about it before we come on. It's just appreciating what you've got, not wishing for something that you haven't got. So, you know, I'm lucky, I'm happy and I'm healthy, apart from the cold sore. I'm happy and I'm healthy, and I should be grateful for that, because there's a lot of people who have a lot less. And I have a job, and I think anybody who's got a job should be grateful, because it's not a great time, is it? So I think what if I can give one piece of advice, I say to people who are in tough times, I think you have to think lucky to be lucky, really. And I think whatever will be. There's those simple things, and I stick affirmations on my fridge, like, so every day I feel a little bit different. I write something like, allow yourself to breathe, or make time for you. And however I feel, I just read them just to reaffirm that I'm okay, you know? So I think, yeah. So today it's always be you, but I can never not be me. I am what I am. So it's just that, it's like there's a mixture of optimism and pessimism. And whether I grow a 3rd ear of having the vaccine, that's what I'm concerned about. But that's another show about conspiracy theories. But yeah, I think roll on the summer, I hope, so we can have some normality of hugging friends and family. Breathe. Yeah.
Mel, do you have anything else?
No, it's just it went by so fast. Like, I'm annoyed almost, because I had all these questions. I'm like, well, how is it?
Well, ask one. We don't have a hard out. Like,
no, I know, but now I'm done. So,
you know, Kelly, I'm sorry, can't hear Mel. What's that, Mel?
All over me, Nick. You just ruined the whole thing. I said the wisest thing. Just talked over it.
Kelly, the thing that I'm gonna take away from our little chat, well, apart from the playing thing, and that it's okay to play no matter what age we are or what level we are, just play. And also to, when you said about having at least one person that you can talk to, and to me, that really came through as like love. Have someone who not only you can love, but can love you. And that kind of level of being able to be vulnerable with someone and let someone be vulnerable with you. And I know that can either work as an athlete, or just somebody at work, or somebody in the family, in the home. I think I'm going to bring that into 2021, is to make sure that I give space for people, but also that I allow myself to tell people that I'm just feeling a little bit off today. Yeah. And I think that was one of the things that, you know, I can't let anybody know that I'm struggling today. It's a two-way street, isn't it?
I think if you break your leg, everyone can see it. But if you're slightly not right there, everyone's afraid to say that. Like this year, I've been on antidepressants for a month. I didn't like them because when my dad died, I struggled. And I just told people, say, how are you? I'm not okay. I've had problems. And there's an amount of people that, oh, so have I. And so because it's not visible, people don't tend to say it. But I'm like, why wouldn't I? So I'm quite open. So I'm like, yeah, I've struggled. I'm going to a therapist. I'm on antidepressants. And everyone goes, oh, so am I. And I realise I'm the last one. Or the only one who isn't on a therapy plan or on a pill. So I'm like, wow, okay. So more people are going through it. You know, I just want everyone to realise no one's alone. There's always someone there. There's always someone who can relate.
Yeah. And I think it doesn't have to be people. It can be, like you both said, just one person to count the 50 people who are going to shit on you, the one person who's going to see you in your kind of mess or unwellness and love you regardless, or because of that as well. Then that is the thing we actually have to embrace fully and not compare it, right? Because a smile will destroy. In my mind, I'm just seeing like the Patron. I don't know if either of you know Harry Potter. I know, Nick, you don't, but the Patronus and Dementors in Harry Potter is like, it takes that one kind of light to destroy a lot of the darkness sometimes. And that can just be, even this conversation is like, yeah, today's shit, man. I mean, Nick say that almost every morning, like, nah, I'm not good this morning. And then I'm like, yeah, the world is great. I'm full of love. Anyway, just to honor all the feelings we have because we're human, right?
Yeah. I don't like Harry Potter either. I have no idea.
I need to.
Sorry.
Kelly, thank you so much for your time. I've known you since you were 13 years old, and we've, over all of this time, we keep glancing into each other's lives. And I'm so grateful that right now, at this point in my life and in your life, and where Melissa is with me and Retribe and Tenders and New Tough, that I have a funny feeling that we're going to be on a path going forward and perhaps working together and helping people. I know that that's something inside of all of us, is that we want to try to make sure that we can help people thrive and flourish in this world that is very uncertain. So thank you so much for your time. Let's stay in touch. What are you doing to bring in the New Year's anyway?
Eating cheese.
But just you and the cat? I have a funny feeling I'll see it all on Instagram. So
eating cheese with a cat on my lap, watching Jules Holland. If he's got a show this year, who knows?
Well, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you.
And Happy New Year to everybody at the What's On at Elephant and Castle Facebook page. We'll see you in the new year. Be safe, everybody. Stay safe. And please reach out if you need to talk to us about anything that was talked to today. And we do have our final workshop of the year Thursday at 11. So check into that as well. All right. So thanks, everybody. Happy New Year.